Now, the issue of skorts versus shorts in camogie has reared its head once again. It seems to come up quite often. But during the week, the Gaelic Players Association released a position paper where they said reframing attire standards in women's sport, a welfare perspective from inter-county camogie players. And the context was that the Camogie Association mandates skorts for match play, as they said in the GPA, a tradition that no longer reflects the preferences or welfare needs of today's players. Now, yesterday, of course, there was the Leinster camogie semi-final. Dublin and Kilkenny staged a protest against the mandatory wearing of skorts ahead of that game. Both teams came out for the game wearing shorts before the referee directed they would have to change before throw-in to comply with the rule book. The Dublin camogie captain is Aisling Maher, and she's with us on the show this afternoon. Good afternoon, Aisling. How are things?
Afternoon, Shane. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Keeping well. Thanks a million for jumping on this afternoon. So what exactly happened yesterday, Aisling, from your perspective?
Yeah, so obviously, as you mentioned there, Leinster semi-final was on yesterday. Ourselves and Kilkenny were due to play in that. And we'd spoken before the game. I suppose there's been frustration that's been building between teams for probably the last year plus since the Camogie Congress rejected a rule to introduce choice for players to have the option to wear shorts. As well as a skort. So I guess that's kind of been coming to a head probably over the last 12 plus months at this stage. So a number of players from various counties have been speaking about it the last while, and we spoke to Kilkenny during the week and basically decided that we weren't going to wait until 2027 when the next Congress is on about uniform, and the next opportunity will be there to update the rules. And we decided to come out wearing shorts yesterday with the intention of playing the game wearing shorts, and went through the warm-up, all the usual preparation, and got to throw in just before the toss, just before throw in, and the ref informed us that unless every player changed back into skorts, the game wouldn't be going ahead and would be abandoned.
So at that point, you're left with a difficult decision. And as I gather, Aaron Navian is playing, and Kilkenny go back into the dressing room to change. And then I guess you guys in the Dublin panel are left to wonder what to do next. Was there a temptation to see it through and stay in the shorts and take whatever punishment came with that? Or was it a case of, look, you just have to follow the rule book on this occasion? Or what was the thinking?
Yeah, I guess yes and no. You know, you make a stand like that, you want to stick by it, and you want to insist on playing in shorts if that's what girls are more comfortable with. But at the same time, I suppose the reality is, you know, like every other team in the country, especially senior inter-county teams, we put in countless hours to get to the point of getting to play in a Leinster semi-final. And when the threat is there of abandoning a game, and you're literally being told the only way you're allowed to play this game is if you go in and wear skorts, at the end of the day, we're players. We want to be playing matches. We don't want to be missing matches. We definitely don't want to be abandoning games. So I suppose ourselves and Kilkenny had a conversation in the days before to say that we were willing to protest up to the point of abandonment, and we didn't want to be prevented from playing our games. So at that moment in time, we had decided that if it got to that stage, we'd make it very clear that our preference was to play in shorts, and that's what we wanted to do. We had the backing of both management teams and both county boards at that point, but we said that if the officials on the day decided to push it to the point of abandoning the game if we didn't change, that we would at that point change.
Aisling, hiya. Obviously with your Dublin role and your co-chair with the GPA as well, I suppose that's where this question is coming from. Has there been any conversation about, I know what you're saying, obviously the referee sends you in and you're saying, well, we don't want the game to be abandoned, but like if every team was to sign up to that, this could be done away with potentially in one weekend. Have you discussed that?
Yeah, I think, look, it's an issue that has a couple of layers to it, insofar as there are some players that like the skorts, and in the same way that I don't believe I should have to wear shorts if that's not what's comfortable to me and that's not what's optimal for me for performance, I also don't believe that players who want to wear the skorts should be forced to wear shorts. So there's a couple of layers to it, but I do think there's growing discontent amongst players at the fact that whether players like the skorts or not, players feel that we should individually be allowed to choose. And I think the longer it goes on that players are not giving the option to wear shorts when they're clearly conveying that that's what they prefer, I think that, you know, it is probably inevitable that action will continue to escalate as the championship goes on if we continue to not be listened to.
Could that be up to a strike? I mean, that's effectively, I suppose, what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, look, it'll be a decision that'll be taken between reps and captains across all of the teams in the coming weeks if camogie don't respond and don't listen to what's being said. I believe that Camogie's position on it at the minute is that they're trying to improve the comfort of the skort, but I think that kind of misses the point, which is that there's a number of girls that just don't feel comfortable in the skort and would prefer to be in shorts. So I think, short of getting engagement from camogie and hopefully being able to have those conversations and get to a position where the rules can be changed to allow players to wear what they're comfortable in, obviously it'll be a collective decision that's made between captains and reps across a number of teams. But like, we don't want to get to that point, you know. We don't want to be missing games. We don't want to be protesting and striking and abandoning matches. Like I said, we're players who put in a huge amount of time and effort. Large percentage of our lives goes into preparing for these matches, and it's extremely disappointing to get to the point of trying to play one of those games and then having to seriously contemplate walking away from it and not even getting to play it at all.
This whole thing baffles me, Aisling. I reached out to the Camogie Association today, trying to get a spokesperson to come on the show as well, and no one was available. We'll obviously try again during the week to try and hear their side of the whole thing as well. But just even looking at the stats and the numbers from that GPA position paper during the week, 70% of players who came back reported discomfort while wearing skorts. 65% expressed concerns about exposure and media content, you know, photographs and that sort of thing in the newspaper affecting their mental state. 49% said they'd experienced anxiety around period leaks. Like this whole thing is so archaic.
Yeah, it is. It's really frustrating. And, you know, like, I guess I'm 29 now, so I grew up in a time where when I went to primary school, we had to wear a uniform which consisted of a skirt or a pinafore if you were a girl. I think probably only a couple of years after I left primary school, the rules were changed and girls were allowed to wear trousers. And pretty much every school, I think, in the country has followed suit since then. So girls who are growing up now are not growing up in an environment where they're being told what to wear in schools or they're being told what to wear in other facets of their life. The only area that these girls are being told that they have to wear something that resembles a skirt because of their gender is when they go out to play sport. And most of these girls are also playing LGFA, where they're being told, no, the shorts are perfectly fine, there's no reason you can't wear shorts, out you go and wear your shorts. So I think the frustration is there for me and my generation and for generations before me, but I think it's only going to get worse as the years go by, because girls are not being forced into those positions in other areas of their life anymore, only in their sport. And I think, you know, we talk a lot about the barriers to keeping girls in sports and the difficulties and that drop-off rate that we see with young girls from age 12 to 16. This is such an easy win. It's something that's so simple but would make such a big difference for young girls. The amount of parents of young girls that I've had messaging me over the past 24 hours since the game saying, you know, I've such a hard time getting my daughter to play camogie as well as LGFA because she hates the sport. She thinks it's uncomfortable. She doesn't understand why she's to wear it. And, you know, my heart goes out to them, because that is why we're doing this as senior intercounty players, because, you know, we have a little bit of a profile, we have a little bit of an ability to draw attention to the issue. But the issue is there for kids at every age grade and for camogie players at every level. So it's a big issue, but it's so easily fixed by just given choice. And if it makes a handful of girls stay in camogie, if it makes a handful of young girls more comfortable in the sport that they play, then to me it's just a no-brainer. I don't understand why the rule can't be changed.
Just final one from me, Aisling. So like that protest yesterday was by all accounts replicated 15 years ago. Like this isn't the first time that teams have you know taken this stand, and it's putting you, the players, in an impossible position essentially. So what do you want to happen from this point onwards? Because, you know, obviously the Camogie Association, if we chat to them during the week, I'm sure they're just going to come out and say, well, Congress 2027 is when we can change this. Presumably someone can do something before then. So what would you like to see happen from here?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the introduction of the opportunity for players to have the choice to wear shorts instead of skort, to put it really simply. And I would like to see us not wait until 2027 when that happens. And I understand that vote was taken in Congress last year, but I think as players we feel frustrated. We feel our voices weren't heard in that vote in Congress. I know from anyone that I've spoken to, anyone I play with, I have never met a player who says, I want to wear a skort and I believe that everyone else should have to wear a skort as well. Some players have a preference for the skort, but anyone who does feels players should be allowed to make their own choice and wear what's comfortable for them. So there's a frustration amongst players that we don't feel that the vote that was made at Congress last year was representative of how players on the ground feel. And I don't think you would find many players, never mind a majority of players, that believe that skorts should be worn and players who want to wear shorts shouldn't have the option to. And I think that, you know, it's a bit of a cop-out to say Congress was last year and we can't revisit this issue at all again until 2027. Like, this is a player welfare issue. This is something that is causing anxiety to players. it's causing young girls to drop out of our sport. This is a bigger issue than to just let it sit in the back burner until 2027 and see what happens. The amount of girls that we could have potentially lost from our sport by then is too big a number to allow it to just sit until we get to 2027. Something needs to be done sooner than that.
Yep, here. Hopefully something happens sooner than that, and hopefully sense prevails. Aisling, great stuff as always, well articulated. Thanks a million for jumping on.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate you having me.